Together, I'm going to call on Deputy Mick to do the introduction, please.
Thank you, Cathaoirleach. Minister, you've been forced effectively to suspend the water charges. Are you going to take the logical next step now and suspend water metering as well, instruct Irish Water to do so? Or is it going to be like a bad B movie? Are you going to carry on water metering?
Thanks. Since the 1st of January 2014, Irish Water has statutory responsibility for all aspects of water services, planning, delivery and operational at national, regional and local levels. This includes the domestic water metering programme. Irish Water revenue shortfall arising from the proposed suspension of domestic water charges in 2016 is currently under consideration, and I intend to bring my proposals on this matter to Government shortly. The future of the metering programme and its associated costs will be part of these deliberations, and a particular account will have to be taken of the very significant benefits in terms of conservation, leakage detection and the efficiencies in the management of the water network more generally, which the programme has delivered. If deputies have any queries on the specific issues in relation to water services, there's a dedicated team within Irish Water who can respond to that. Can I say that my view on this is actually quite clear? There's a contract in place to finish phase 1 of the rollout of the metering programme. My belief is that should be finished out. I think that the charging that we have seen, which has been controversial, I accept, in recent years, has shown that many people have changed their behaviour as a result of that. In fact, about 40% of people were paying charges at below the cap because they were using their meter. They were conserving water in a way that meters were actually designed to encourage. And it has also been very useful in terms of detecting leaks. I accept that a lot of the leaks in the Irish water infrastructure doesn't happen actually between the meter and the household, if you like, but a percentage of it does. And there has been significant detection of leaks as a result of meters. So my view is that we should continue to roll out the meter programme. I think in the medium term people will see sense to metering. It makes sense to understand how much water is being used, where it's going, where the leaks are and so on. And certainly the evidence to date shows that when people have meters and are paying linked to the amount of water that they use, that they do use those meters, change their behaviour, use less water and conserve more water, and I think that is good.
Deputy Berry.
Well, Minister, I don't imagine that you have ever been at a community-based anti-water meter protest. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a flavour of what it's like. It's a community event. It's not like a bill coming into your letterbox. This is the Irish Water crews coming into your community. So discussion starts in the community. Community begins to get organised. Cars are driven around, scouting for the Irish Water meter vans. People are watching and waiting. They're texting. They're going on Facebook. Women in particular come out and organise. They go door to door and they get other women and the neighbours to come out and to join the protest. Now, I've sat here, Minister, listening to you several times in recent weeks saying that with the new Water Commission, you want to take the heat out of the water charges issue. Well, precisely how you don't do that is you carry on water metering. How do you square the contradiction between the two things?
OK, Ara. Well, Deputy, I'll let you in next. You have double the time to your end, so you will get ample time. Well, we'll give you the time. There'll be plenty of time for interactions.
Why don't we let the two opposition speak if they want it?
If you wish.
I can answer the two then
if you wish. Deputy Murphy, make your case.
Thanks a lot, Cathaoirleach. Thanks, Minister. I mean, last week we obviously had the debate that concluded yesterday in relation to the Water Services Act, and I made a definite point of saying clearly to the Minister that if the government doesn't stop the water metering programme, it'll be stopped by protesters, and heat will not be taken out of the issue, but rather it will become more hot. Yesterday, as if to test that hypothesis, Irish Water appeared in Carrigmore, in my constituency, where they were immediately met by residents who came out, tens and tens of residents who came out to stop them, who stayed there all day, peacefully protested and ensured that no meters went in. And I could assure the Minister that people did not see the sense of water metering, because people know the purpose of water metering is to prepare for the imposition of water charges and to prepare for privatisation. So water meters will not be accepted, and surely the Minister will, surely he can see that it's simply the project has to be halted? Or are you going to continue to have huge numbers of Garda resources imposed on communities to get the water meters in to the areas that are left, which are the areas where you have the strongest opposition to water meters? Are more people going to go to jail in opposition to water meters again, even though the water charges are suspended?
Ara, Norman Dewan.
No, look, well, first of all, I think to put this into context, there's about 840,000 water meters have gone in. And for lots of people, they don't have a problem with that. You talk about this issue like every person in the country is trying to block water meters being put in relation to their own water systems. That's not the case. Some people do have real objections to this. Many people also don't. And many people have been using water meters to manage how they use water and to conserve water. And we know that because 40% of people, which is way beyond what most people were expecting, were actually paying water charges at below the cap. I think we cannot operate as a government on the basis of people threatening protest. Therefore, we mustn't do anything. What we are doing in relation to the metering programme is we are concluding phase 1 of metering rollout, which will be finished in the next couple of months, or in the next 6 months or so. That's my understanding. But I can stand corrected on that. But it's pretty close to being concluded. Phase 2 of metering rollout was always going to be more complicated because it involved flat complexes and so on, which is more complicated in terms of metering.
Thank you.
My view is that we have a very significant number of water meters in the ground. They have served a useful function, and they will in the future also. I'm answering two deputies.
Yeah, but I'll let you back in. We have ample time. I must let Deputy Murphy back in, and then I will let you in. Both of you will get in, Deputy Murphy and then Deputy Kenny. Deputy Murphy, you have a minute. If you wish to come back.
Yeah, of course. I just say to the Minister that phase 1 will not be concluded. Now you're approaching the areas where there are people who are big communities who are opposed to the imposition of water meters who will simply not accept it. And the government will have to make a choice, and Irish Water will make a choice. Are you going to push ahead against the opposition of these communities even when you've suspended the water charges? I think it would be madness for you to do so. Secondly, I'd make the point, I believe that the talk of conservation, it's a cover. Water meters are not about conservation, they're about charging for water, and they're about pushing privatisation in the future and the privatisation of the revenue stream. According to Irish Water figures, extrapolating to full imposition of water meters, you're talking about 3% of water being saved. That's 3% out of 41% of water that is lost. That's where we need investment in terms of our water infrastructure, and that's where you also, as Minister with responsibility for housing, needs to change the building regulations in terms of grey water harvesting, rainwater harvesting, dual flush toilets being mandatory for new builds that are taking place. That's where it would actually make a difference in terms of water conservation.
Margaret, Deputy Kenny, 1 minute.
It's Deputy Barry.
Sorry, Deputy Barry.
Okay, so Minister, you talk about the number of meters that have been installed. The Irish Water target is for somewhere between 1 million and 1.1 million. And Irish Water said that there's 850,000 approx have been installed so far. The bulk of the areas where the meters have yet to be installed are the working class communities where people have organised to resist the meters to go in. Areas like Tala, areas like the northeast of Dublin, in Cork City, areas like Churchfield, who successfully kept them out, Grana Braher, who successfully kept them out, Knocknaheeny, who successfully kept them out, Ballyfihan, who successfully kept them out. Minister, do you seriously believe that you can calm things down, on the issue of water charges and try and send the water metering crews into these areas over the next weeks and months. I suggest, Minister, that you're very sadly mistaken if you think that you're going to be able to do that.
Yeah, can I just point out to members, in case there's any confusion, I am going strictly by the rules of the House, as it was agreed by all members of the House. So where there are two similar questions, the time is doubled to make sure everybody gets fair play and the Minister gets adequate time as well. So we're going strictly by the rules of the House in case some members think that we're not going down that road. Ara?
Yeah, no, I mean, the question is whether or not I'm going to instruct Irish Water to discontinue the installation of water meters, and the answer to that question is no. But I expect there'll be a pragmatic response from Irish Water where there's significant resistance. I think that in time, many people will want water meters that don't have them right now. No, Deputy. No, Deputy, you see, you want heat in this issue because you've built a whole political campaign around it. You want to keep people divided. You want to keep communities divided. You want to try and keep. No, sorry, you don't like to hear that because it's the truth. This is what you've built your political campaigns and career around: division, protest, right? And sorry, but I mean, you know, I don't.
Just 1 minute, please. Gentlemen, you both have a minute left apiece. Would you please allow the Minister finish, and I will allow both of you in.
So when I answer honestly, I get threats back. Just like when we had questions in relation to waste, when we were trying to resolve those issues. Deputy Murphy's sole contribution was, well, when you come to Tala, there'll be protesters waiting for you. That's his. Yeah. But they had nothing to do with the solutions. You don't offer solutions, Deputy. You want to make people angry, so that they will be divided and therefore create political opportunity for you. I'm in the business of trying to provide solutions. And there are others in this House who are doing the same.
Thank you.
And I'll finish, if that's
okay,
because I've been interrupted and I'll finish.
Right.
In my view, water meters play an important and will continue to play an important role in terms of water policy in Ireland, regardless of the charging system that may or may not be voted for in this House in 9 months' time. And that is why we will continue, that is why Irish Water will finalise the Phase 1 rollout of the metering programme where possible.
Please. Now, which are you going first this time? Deputy Barry.
Okay, I note with interest the comment of the Minister that he expects Irish Water to take what he describes as a pragmatic approach. I think in reality what he is saying is that Irish Water are likely to back off where there is strong community resistance to the installation of water meters. And I hope that all of the activists and the campaigners in those communities listen carefully to the point that the Minister has made here, draw the appropriate conclusion and redouble their efforts to stop his and Irish Water's metering programme. On the issue of the anger, all I can say is that I'm a reasonably calm, relaxed individual, and the anger that I've seen stirred up in Granabraher, Churchfield, Knocknaheeny and the other communities was actually stirred up by the Minister and his government, who tried to impose an unjust charge and ram it down people's throats.
Deputy Murphy, 1 minute.
Thank you. To continue with that point, I mean, what has divided people, what has angered people is the fact that, for example, by December of last year, 188 people have been arrested at water protests. The vast majority of them are involved in protesting against water meters in their community. Just 3 or 4 weeks ago, 3 people were in jail for protesting against water meters. Just last week, 2 people were up in court, in Tala District Court, for protesting against water meters. So when you're imposing water meters on communities that don't want them and then using the force of the law to try to ram them in, that is going to divide people. I would encourage people to exactly heed that message, that if there is resistance, the water meters will be stopped. And that is the lesson, that the solutions here have come from people organising to resist. The reason that there's a suspension of water charges is not because any of the government had a change of heart, it's not because Fianna Fáil had a change of heart, it's because of a protest movement that built pressure. The reason that there was a partial step back in terms of bin charges was again because people protested. So protesting, organising does achieve change. We're offering you a solution here. The solution is stop the water metering.
Thank you, Deputy. Harry, you have 1 minute to conclude on those two questions.
Yeah, well, it's kind of the same question over and over again, to be honest, or statement actually. You know, I think it is important to say that I don't think people are put in prison for peaceful protest. But look, on the question, I think I've answered it repeatedly. My view is that meters have a value. Many households are using meters very effectively. Some communities that have been referred to by deputies have resisted the imposition of water meters and feel very strongly on the issue. I accept that, and I don't pretend that that's not the case. But what I am saying is that the rollout of meters, as envisaged by Irish Water, I think is a significant and important addition to our water infrastructure in terms of understanding how water is being used and in terms of changing behaviour in a way that encourages conservation. And from that point of view, I think it's a positive thing and it should continue.
Thank you, Minister. Now, question 8.